Hello, YouTubers and TikTokers. I'm probably going to post this on both YouTube and TikTok. There's a story that I've held deeply inside of me, and I have not yet shared it on social media for a long time, partially due to fear and shame and confusion. But it was a very profound event in my life, and the reason why I want to share it now is because I don't know. I mean, I could be the only one in the world that's had this happen to them, but I'm just curious. There's another person that I know that I will not mention, but she has had an experience like this as well. It's different details, but it's a similar idea. And at first I thought it was, when you're going through it, an experience like the one that I went through, it seems very, very real at the moment, and profound, and like the whole world is watching. And this may be something that is unique to people with mental illness. I don't know. It may be that people with bipolar and schizophrenia are the only types of people that can experience events like this. It's hard to say what, but I'm going to do it. So, there was an event that took place back in, what was it? It was 2004. I don't remember the month, but I know it was in the year 2004. And I was so caught up in end times theology and thinking about the end of the world and the return of Jesus and the Rapture and Armageddon and all that stuff, that I became so wrapped up in it. And at some point I felt that I had some kind of cosmic, cosmic significance. And I think we all do. But I think my sense of cosmic significance was beyond normal, and it's probably something that was due to what could have probably bordered on obsession with the end times. And I'm not suggesting that it's bad or wrong to anticipate the return of Jesus. And to be excited about it, profoundly excited. I just think that sometimes we don't know what to do with those feelings as Christians, and certain Christians may not share those thoughts with other people. They may keep them to themselves, and it can build and it can grow, and you may find yourself in major delusions, which seem true at the time, but they might not be indicative of the reality of the world. So I'll just sum it up in one sentence. Just kind of just jump to the chase here. I thought that I had the power to start the rapture. I thought that I could do it. I thought somehow that God was going to enable me to be an instrument in bringing about the return of Jesus. Now, maybe that was egocentric of me, or maybe that was, attaching more significance to myself than I was warranted. It probably was. But when you see things in a certain way and other people in society aren't talking about it or don't seem to be taking action. Sometimes it seems like you're waiting for someone else to move. You're waiting for it to happen. You're waiting for something to start taking place and nothing's happening. And you're like, well, when's it going to happen? And you think, well, maybe I'm the one that's maybe it all depends on me. Maybe I have to make the first move. Maybe I have to be the one to start this, and maybe it'll cause a chain reaction, So in my mind, I had just really got caught up. This was a few years after the Left Behind series came out. Anyone who is familiar with the Left Behind series by Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins, they know what a huge impact that had on the church as a whole, and a lot of people in the world even. I know a lot of people that weren't even necessarily, I don't know if they were believers or if they came to be believers reading the series and watching the movies. But I became profoundly interested. I only read the first book, but I had always been interested in eschatology and the study of end times, because I had a feeling from early on, especially it was in college. I think it was the first time that I really took an interest in the end of time and the return of Jesus, and it was really due to one professor that I had in college at Whitworth College, where I went, and his name was Stephen Meyer, and he's been in the news a little bit lately, talking about intelligent design and the fine tuning of the universe, and just showing the immense beauty and complexity and fine tuning of the universe, and how it really does indicate that there is a need for an intelligent designer, and we can't just explain it away with physical laws and materialism and natural processes. There has to be something that is transcendent to the universe, that began the universe, because if we posit another universe that caused this one, or posit some other entity or reason, we have to come up with with an explanation for that, and it just keeps going back. As long as you have a physical process that requires a cause, you just keep going further and further back, and at some point you just have to say, hey, it has to start somewhere with something that is immaterial and that is not part of this universe, that is wholly transcendent to it. Anyway, back to Steve Meyer. I took a course of his at Whitworth College called Reasons for Faith, and it was probably my favorite class that I'd ever taken at Whitworth. And in this class, Steve talked about the basics of why we can know that faith is not just willy-nilly. It's not just something that you just say, oh, I think I'll have faith in that, and then just have faith in it and see how it works out. It's something that you use your intellect for, and the idea that we could really use our minds to as a solid foundation for our Christian faith, to me, was instrumental in my life. It was huge, all right, to see all these reasons why there were sound reasons for believing in God and for having faith in Jesus. But the majority of the class, it wasn't so much theology, it was more based on science and scientific principles and cause and effect and things like that. But one thing that he mentioned, and this was not necessarily integral to the class, but this was, I believe, at one point he was espousing a very, I didn't quite follow the logic, and I couldn't understand how it fit together, but I thought he knew what he was talking about, and he was using this prophecy in the Bible. I believe it had to do with King Darius, a decree, and in the decree, I think it had to do with it somehow prophesied the date of, I think it was either the crucifixion or something significant in the life of Christ. And there was another prophecy again. I don't remember what it was, and maybe it would be good for me to go back and see if I can inquire about this prophecy, either with Steve or some other Christian that knows about it. But it talked about, well, I think the event that he was talking about was the prophecy that talks about the return of the Jews to their homeland in Israel, and how that once the Jews have been gathered back to their homeland after a certain period of being dispersed into the world. I mean, we had the first dispersion, which was Babylonian captivity, and then there was the Egyptian slavery period where there were slaves in Egypt, and then there was the Babylonian captivity, which was, I believe, a 70-year period of captivity, due in part to their disobedience of God. And then I'm trying to remember if there was another one before the Romans destroyed Jerusalem. I think there may have been another one, but I can't remember. But what I do remember is that after the Jews were destroyed in Rome, Jerusalem was destroyed, and the Jews were driven from the land after the crucifixion of Christ. Shortly after that, there was a prophecy in the Bible that this generation would not, the generation that sees Israel return to their homeland would not depart, would not go out of existence before the return of the Messiah, before Jesus came back again in bodily form as a triumphant conqueror. And there's been a lot of talk about that, and some have wondered, well, how long is a generation? People say 40 years, and there have been various dates set. I think one guy said 1988, and then of course there's been many other dates set that people have set specific dates where they say, oh, well, Jesus, based on biblical numerology or whatever, this date has to be when Jesus is going to come. And that is obviously hogwash, because the Bible says that no one will know the exact date or the hour. Even Jesus said, no one knows when I will return, not even myself. Only the Father knows. And so the question was, after I saw this prophecy, someone I believe asked Steve if he believed that Jesus could come in our lifetimes, and the response that he said really it just charted the whole future of my life, basically. He confessed that he truly believed that Jesus Christ would come back in his lifetime. And I know people have been saying that since Christ first left the earth. But I took a lot of stock in what Steve had to say. I knew he was a very intelligent man. And so I became quite compelled, thinking, at first my life just kind of like, I never really focused on a career, out of college. And I was really focused on this, almost myopically focused on this one event, thinking about, well, what does that mean? What does that mean if Jesus comes back in my lifetime? What do I need to do? What do I need to think about? How do I prepare? And, some people, made careers, and that's probably what I should have done, and made a life. And but it was just hard for me to get my mind off it, So I became myopically focused, and I kind of made my way through life, kicking and screaming, but never really having a career, never really planning for a future, as far as thinking about marriage, family, the typical American dream, owning a home, preparing for the future, retirement. I was just solely focused on, I wanted to meet Jesus. I wanted to be in his presence. And I think a lot of that desire for this physical union, like this where you're in his presence physically and you can see him, it really did. I mean, I'm not saying it's Steve's fault or anything. It's just the way I took the evidence and took the information. But it did kind of detract from me developing a really deep, trusting, spiritual relationship with Jesus, and really, developing, having faith, really, and trusting. Not so much like, I need to see him with my eyes. I need to be in his presence. And I know we all long for that, and that's a good thing to long for. But I think sometimes we can become overly obsessed with the idea of being in Christ's physical presence. And although that's a wonderful thing to hope for, we shouldn't, I don't know that we should make that like the sole purpose of our life, or the the end goal, because ultimately, like, we can be with Christ in spirit, through studying him, through learning about him, through praying to him, as though he were here, as though he were right beside us. And when we develop that faith, then when we are in his presence, it will be like we know him. It will be like having a conversation with a friend. And so we don't have to wait for that moment, of being next to him physically and next to him, seeing him in bodily form, before we can think about what we would like to say to him. We can actually think of those things now. We can think of ourselves. What would we like to say to Jesus when we first meet him? What would we like to converse with him? What would we like to thank him for? What would we like to ask him? What questions would we have for him? Anyway, my point was that that's kind of the direction my life took after college. I was kind of aimless as far as, worldly speaking, earthly speaking. And in 2004, my anticipation for Jesus' return kind of hit a climax. And I somehow thought that maybe God had some kind of eternal, significance for me. Like, I thought that maybe I was a prophet, or maybe I thought maybe that that God would enable me to have the power to bring the world together and help prepare for his return, and help prepare for the coming of Jesus Christ. And at one point, it got so wildly fantastic that I had this vision in my head. It wasn't really a planned thing. It wasn't I don't think this was a vision God gave me. I think it was like my own desire, my own anticipation and my own desire. And so I imagined myself doing miracles left and right, and being able to bring people out of their sick beds and dancing and singing for Jesus. And I felt like there was going to be this chain reaction. And, being bipolar, and I'd been in the hospital a few times before that, but I think I'd been off my meds for a while. and I wasn't sleeping very well either. And I at one point I left home because I met this woman, and she lived in a little tiny house, and I had an iguana, and I helped her one day with some money for food, and I don't know if she invited me over or if I asked if I could come over or whatever, but we started hanging out, and I started having these visions of, like, using the Salvation Army to create giant skyscrapers in Grass Valley, and having homeless people from all over the world come to the towers, and building, creating businesses and making shirts and clothing that had eternal significance. And I just had all these visions. And sometime after that, I was walking, like I went outside for a walk, and I was like, God, I feel like you want me to do something. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do, God? Like, I'm here. Tell me what to do. So this idea that I wanted, I truly desired this walking, this, I wanted to hear God's voice. I wanted him to say, Chris, this is what you do next. This is what you do. Follow my voice, listen to me. And so I was asking for God what to do. And I kind of believe that he communicated with me through my mind. So I thought if I asked God a question and then something came to my mind, that was what I was supposed to do. And that can be just caveat here, that can be a very dangerous way to try to listen to God's voice, because sometimes it can lead to devastating consequences if you're not careful. So it takes some growth. It takes a lot of learning and a lot of trial and error before you really learn what it is to listen to God and for God's voice. And it's still a process that I'm working on myself, of course, as all of us are who are really devoted to Christ. But I was at a daze. I didn't know what to do. I was just like, I know I'm supposed to do something. What do I do? What do I do, God? So I literally sat down on the curb, and I just started to pray. What do I do? What do I do? And I just looked around, and then I noticed a sign. I think it said, to the hospital this way. And I was like, oh, of course, that's what I do. I was like convicted at that very moment. I was like so convicted, like, oh my gosh, God, you want me to go to the hospital? You want me to pray for all the sick people in their hospital beds? And you want me to sing for them and pray for them and all this stuff? And I had all these visions going through my head. And so I have to get to the hospital. But in my state, I was so disoriented. I didn't even know, I couldn't remember how to get to the hospital. It was kind of, I can't remember. I think it was in the afternoon. And I started walking, and I didn't know where I was going. And so I thought, someone will show up who can help me. And I started hitchhiking. I put my finger up because I thought maybe they'll take me to the hospital. And no one was pulling over. And I was like, well, I'm supposed to do something major and no one's pulling over. What am I supposed to do? So I got impatient, and I actually got into the middle of the street, and I basically stopped this gal, poor lady, in the middle of the street. And poor lady probably didn't know what hit her. And I walk up to her and like, I need to get to the hospital right now. Please open the door. And I actually, you know what? I think, to be honest, I actually just opened the door on my own. Oh, yeah, not very good. I think I opened the door, and I think I said, I need to go to the hospital. And I just sat down, and I was like, take me to the hospital. This is very important, like it was an emergency. Well, it was an emergency for me. But she didn't understand what was going on. And anyway, she politely took me to the hospital. I was really appreciative of that. And then I got out, and then I just went into the hospital, and I was so wrapped up in my mind and my visions. I walked in, and everyone was, just doing normal hospital things. It was in the front office of Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital. And I walked in there, I was like, hey, what are you guys doing? I was like, you guys want to see miracles or something like that? I think I said that. And I remember one woman, she's probably trying to make light of the situation. She said, there'll be a miracle for all this paperwork to disappear. And I kind of chuckled, and I'm like, oh, she's just making light of me. She doesn't know what I'm here for. And so at that point, I I said, no, I'm serious. Like, I'm here. I don't specifically remember what I said. I think it was something like, I don't remember what I said, but it was something to the effect of, I'm here to make a big change, or I'm here to do something for God, or I'm here to change the world or something. And I believe somebody told me, you should probably talk to the chaplain. So I went up and I talked to the chaplain. I remember her name. It was Derry, Chaplain Derry. And I went into the room, and I immediately felt like this presence come over me. Like I sensed the presence of God in her. I sensed her kindness, her kind heart. And I explained to her my situation, that, I was here to do God's will, and I was here to pray for the people. And I believed that I could heal people and bring them knowledge of Jesus. And I don't remember if I told her that, because my vision was that they would all rise out of their beds, and I could see in my head I could see this clearly, like it had already happened. And that's the thing with mental illness, is like you see things and you think they're real, but they're really not. They're just in your head. And I saw myself, singing with these people and dancing with them, and people that were paralyzed, or that were on their deathbed, or that were deathly sick, and they were getting up out of their bed, and they were old, and they were really infirm, and they were just getting up and dancing around and singing songs to Jesus. And I don't know if I told Jerry that. I don't think I did, but at any point she did explain to me that there was a process, right? There's a process for witnessing and sharing the gospel and praying for patients, and you just can't come off the street and just start praying for people in their hospital rooms. And that's really good advice. And had I been in my right mind, maybe I could have taken it. But in my profound desire to get the ball started and see the rapture and see Jesus, because honestly, like I saw after I was in the hospital and I saw myself dancing with the patients, I saw in my mind all these people from all around, news reporters and everything, coming to the hospital to see what was going on. And then I could literally see like us flying up to Jesus and thinking that I could be the person that starts the whole thing off. And it wasn't so much that I wanted the attention for myself. It's just like I just wanted to find whatever way I could to see Jesus, to see him in physical form. And I thought maybe if I did this thing, which I thought God was telling me to do, that it would enable that to happen. But so after I got the news from Derry that it was a process and that there were procedures to go through, and that I would need to do this paperwork and talk to these people, and I just couldn't handle that in my state. And so her phone rang and she excused herself and she said, I need to take this. Would you please step outside? So I stepped outside, and when I came out, there was a security guard there, and I didn't think too much of it at the time, but I did kind of sense like some kind of tension there, like maybe this wasn't perfect for me, like maybe this was a challenge. But anyway, I stood outside of her door, and it literally, it's like my world stopped. Like I didn't know what to do next. What do I do? Like how do I get this thing started? Do I try and go to the patients' rooms and just start praying for them? But I knew that wasn't going to be allowed, and so I did the only thing that I knew what to do at the time, and so I just started singing. I started singing praise songs, and I started singing quietly at first, and as time went on, I grew bolder and bolder, and I started raising my voice more and more, trying to thinking, and at that point I kind of thought, oh, maybe my singing will bring them out, and they will hear my voice, and they will hear the singing, and they will hear the enthusiasm, and it will inspire them, or it'll cure them, or whatever. And at that moment, at a point, the security guard was like, oh, no, calm it down, lower your volume. And any person in their right mind would have said, okay, sorry, I'm probably bothering some people, but not me. In my excited state and everything, I felt like it was a test. Like, I felt like it was the enemy trying to stop my message, or trying to stop my the thing that I thought God wanted me to do, and I wanted to do at the same time. And obviously, I don't think God wanted me to do that, but in my deluded state, I did think that was God calling me to do that, and I was just trying to be obedient. And as I continued to sing louder and louder, his grip on my arm tightened, right? It tightened more and more. And the more it tightened, the more oppressed I felt, and the more I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be a confrontation. The enemy is going to do everything he can to stop this. And so, obviously, he's just doing his job, This guy is just doing his job. He doesn't know who I am, and I'm coming off the street, and he doesn't know my intentions and whatnot. And so, anyway, as I refused to calm down, he asked me to come down with him, and I walked with him. And as I got to the edge of the room, and I looked down to the stairwell, and I looked down below, there were, I believe, 2 or 3 other security guards or officers. And in my mind, they were, they had, maybe they had concerned looks on their faces, but to me it seemed like they were, I don't know, dark, or that they were maybe had animosity towards me, or that they didn't appreciate what I was doing, or that whatever, and maybe I thought that they represented the world system, the system of control, the system of shutting out God's voice. Because in my mind, I represented truth. I represented God. I represented God's voice and what God wanted to do on the earth. And their resistance to me made me think that maybe they represented, the enemy, which, was Satan. And so, that was my idea. I was afraid. I didn't know those men. I didn't know anything about them. I didn't know their story. I didn't know their fears, their joys, the complexity of their lives, their loved ones, their children. I just jumped to this conclusion that because they were showing tension towards me, and that they were not, smiling at me, oh, hey man, how's it going? That they were somehow my enemy. And so I did something that, I am very shameful to say, and it really brought me a lot of grief later. I threw out threats towards these people. I was telling them that, if they got in my way, or if they tried to stop me, I was here on God's business. I was here to do God's will. Oh, look, I'm such a lunatic. I'm in this. Here I am, like trying to help people, supposedly just, to bring people to Jesus, and I'm threatening them, saying, if you stop God's way, I'm going to call down God's wrath on you. God might smite you with bubonic plague, or he might strike you down, or whatever. And I think, the officers perceived these as almost as death threats. I didn't mean them to be as such. Like, I didn't mean them in my state. I didn't honestly believe that I intended them as saying, I'm going to do this to you, or I'm going to do this to you. It was, in my mind, it was like, God's going to protect me, and if you try and stop me, I trust God. He's gonna protect me, and you're gonna be in trouble. But at any rate, so they regarded me very warily as I walked down with the security guard, and then I was still downstairs, and they're kind of gathered around me, and they're just watching me, and at that point it's like my whole world basically came to a complete halt. I didn't know what to do. I was like, what do I do here? And I believe I think his name was McIntosh, Sergeant McIntosh, and I believe that he asked me to leave the premises, that I was disrupting people and making a scene, and I needed to leave. And I couldn't comprehend it. I heard it, but I didn't. I really didn't. I was so caught up in what was going on in my mind and in my visions and everything. And so I just continued singing. I'm just going to keep praising God until come hell or high water, and I'm going to wait for God to intervene and see what happens, So and at some point I started marching in place, and I was like, oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in. I was so confident that I was in the right, and that I was there for the right reasons. But I believe several other attempts were made, and I look back on this, and at the time I thought, well, if they would have done this, then it would have worked out, and if they would have handled it this way, it would have worked out. But looking back on it, I don't know. I don't know if they'd taken different measures, if it would have worked with me. It may have. If they would have said, hey, can we have a conversation? Let's sit down. Let's sit down and find out what's going on. Maybe then it would have worked, but maybe I was giving off an energy that indicated that I was not open to that. And I look back on it thinking of that I was open to that if they would have just said that, I would have responded and we could have had a conversation. But looking back on it, I can't say for exactly sure what I would have done, whether I would have been open to that, because I've done some pretty crazy things in the past. But anyway, what happened was, I continued marching in place, and I believe at some point, they basically gave me an ultimatum, and I just smiled at him, and I was singing, and I was like, whatever, God's gonna take care of me. And finally, one of the officers said, okay, sir, we're going to place you under arrest for trespassing and refusing to obey orders or something like that. And at that point, I didn't even remember what happened. It just happened so fast. They grabbed one of my arms to pull it behind my back, and in my mind, it wasn't like I was thinking, oh, I'm going to resist arrest, or I'm going to fight, or I'm going to combat them. But in my state, when they yanked my arm back, the first thing I thought was, this hurts. They grabbed the wrist that I had tried to commit suicide on back in 2001, and it sent shivering pain through my arm, and I just reactively yanked my arm away. I wasn't thinking in my mind, I am resisting arrest. I am, because I wasn't even fully aware that I was being put under arrest, if that makes any sense. That's the state that I was in. But so they went to pull my arm down behind my back, and I just yanked my hand out because it hurt, and they lost grip of my hand. And, at that point, if they would have just pulled back and said, and just looked at me, and maybe there would have been another opportunity to discourse. But at that point, it was too late, because, officers in the line of duty, when someone appears to resist, whether or not, whatever their intentions are, even if they have good intentions or they don't have any intent on hurting anyone, if they are placed under arrest and they attempt, or they look like they're trying to break out of it, which was not my intent, but it appeared that way, they did what officers are trained to do. They took me down, and 3 large 250, 240 pound officers jumped on me at once, and it scared the living bejesus out of me. And all I know is that, like, it was one of the scariest events in my life. I felt like I was fighting for my life. I felt suffocated. I was just trying to break free. I didn't understand what they were doing. I didn't get it. Like, I didn't understand. I thought that they were trying to kill me. I thought they were trying to annihilate me. I don't know. I felt annihilated. Like, I felt like if I didn't fight, I would be annihilated. So I tried to fight back. I tried to push them away. I tried to squirm out. But with 3 large officers on you, you don't have any hope. And I didn't have any hope. And one of the officers in his testimony later claimed that I tried to grab a firearm, which I don't even remember I knew, like, logically that officers held firearms, but in that moment, I was not aware that they had firearms, nor do I remember seeing any during the fight. Although the officer did claim that, I tried to grab the gun. He saw my hand on the weapon, and that I attempted to remove it or something. And I have no knowledge of that at all. My desire was not to, kill anyone or hurt anyone. My desire was to just break free and do whatever I could to survive. Because in my mindset, I was being attacked, and I didn't know whether I was going to make it. So and there was a point, and I'm so thankful to God and to the circumstances that this never happened, because the only thing I do remember is that one of the officer's fingers were dangerously close to my mouth. And I remember trying to reach it, trying to bite his fingers off, thinking that somehow if I was able to do that I could break free and not be annihilated. And I'm so fortunate that his fingers were not closer to my mouth, because had I done that, then I would have ended up, the repercussions would have been a lot worse. And I would have been in jail for a long, long time. It's hard to predict what you'll do in a battle like that, when you feel like your very existence is being threatened. Whether or not it was, I know the officers weren't planning on killing me, but in a person who is mentally not in their right mind, they might think that. And so it's so important for officers, if they are dealing with someone that appears to be not in their right mental state, if at all possible, don't try to use brute force, to arrest someone. If that seemed like the last alternative, then I guess it's necessary. But and I know training plays into this too, and I'm sure officers probably are not trained that once they've been engaged in a physical conflict, or if the person has broken free, that they are supposed to pursue the fight and just detain it any and all means. And maybe that's the case, and maybe that's how it had to be. I don't know, but it felt like it could have gone differently. So anyway, I was on the ground, and these three large armed men were on top of me, and literally I could not breathe. I was literally like, felt like I was suffocating, and I screamed out mercy as loud as I could once they were on me, because I knew that I knew that I couldn't breathe, and that if I was under there much longer, I would suffocate. And I didn't feel like anything was happening. Of course, in the time, in the moment, a second probably felt like it was an hour. So like, I screamed mercy a second time, and they still didn't get off me. And maybe they were getting off one by one, and I just didn't notice it. It's possible that they were getting off me, and I felt like they weren't when they actually were. But finally, I knew that on the third time I screamed mercy, that was going to be it for me, and that if they stayed on me much longer, I would literally suffocate. And so the third time I screamed mercy, finally I felt some relief, and I felt like the weight was lifted off me. And at that point, once I was on the ground, then I don't remember if they cuffed me right away, but at whatever point, at that point, I was, I just went along with whatever they said. I wasn't like going to try and try and resist anymore. But what took place next is, again, shameful for me. I issued out more death threats, and I was like, "You're all dead. You are all dead." And I said it very matter-of-factly, like, God is going to strike you down. And I didn't mean it like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to kill you. In the police report, I believe they said something like, "I'm going to kill you all, you MFs." And I don't know if that was in the police report or not, but I know that I did not say that, because my whole notion was not that I'm going to do these things. It was that God was there for me, and He was going to protect me. And so, in that moment, I just called down the fury of heaven, not realizing what I was doing. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I didn't understand why this was happening. I didn't understand the resistance. I thought they knew my intentions, that I was just there to help people and to bring people to God, and to bring joy to people, and to bring hope to people, which is all I ever wanted to do. But there's so much of our conflict, so much of our tension with others is really based on just miscommunication, just not having other people's, not understanding their intentions, and not assuming the worst about other people, and I assumed the worst about them, that they were out to get me or whatever, and they assumed the worst about me, that I was there to whatever, cause chaos and mayhem. But after that point, I just went along. They took me to the jail. I was sent to the jail at Wayne Brown County Jail, and again, my hope just took over. And in the moment, I was still so caught up in the idea of the rapture, that I was in that cell. I felt like that was it. Like, it's happening. It's happening right now. Like, Jesus is coming any moment, and He's gonna like rescue me from the jail, and He's going to blow the roof off this place, and He's gonna show you who I am and whatnot. And there was a period when I had my jail clothes on in the cell, and I was just I felt so connected to God at that point. I felt like I'm suffering for Jesus. I felt like a martyr. And so I literally took my robes off, and I thought, well, Christ is coming. He's going to come. I just know it. I can feel it. And I thought, I don't need these clothes anymore because we're going up to heaven, and I'll be clothed in a new body and everything. So I took my clothes off, and I literally started, like, I would leap off the walls. I'm like, Jesus is coming! Jesus is coming! Jesus is coming! Woo! And I was like, everyone in the jail just thought I was starking mad. Like, I was just crazy mad. And I was mad. I was mad for Christ, but, and it's okay to be passionate about Christ, but, sometimes our passion can get the best of us, and we may not have a great grasp of common sense when our passions get the best of us. And, so, I proceeded to do that for probably, I have no idea how long I was in there. I felt like, an eternity of leaping and shouting and singing. And then at some point I started to get tired. I was tired, and so I thought, well, he hasn't come yet, but I'm just gonna be at peace now. It's time to be at peace and just wait. I'll lie down and wait. And so I don't remember. I may have put my clothes back on, or maybe I just sat down. I think I put my robe back on, and I just lied down on the jail cell, looking up at the ceiling, and I was just like, it's gonna be so great to see you, Jesus. And I was just waiting and waiting and waiting, and I'm like, you're gonna come. I just know you're gonna come, and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then I started to think, why isn't he coming yet? What's going on? Where's Jesus? I thought he was going to come for me. I thought he was going to do these things through me. And, I didn't really say it to myself. I didn't really acknowledge it to myself that I was wrong, that maybe I was mistaken. I think I just kept on thinking it'll happen next, or the next time is the time it'll happen, or whatever. And, I was in that jail cell for some time, and off meds. I believe they knew that I was manic depressive, and they brought my medication to me in the jail cell, which I refused, of course, in my state. And over time, that was a very, very difficult time in the jail for me. I mean, in my mind, I was so connected to God the whole time. And so even though there was intense, what seemed to me like persecution, it seemed to me like that. But in retrospect, I understand that the guards were just doing their job. They were just trying to maintain order. And there were times when I was making a commotion in my jail cell, and they would tell me to be quiet. And I thought, who are you to tell me? I have a right to praise God as loud as I want, whenever I want. Why should I listen to these people on earth that are trying to stifle my joy, trying to rob me of my faith and my enthusiasm for God? And so I basically, flipped in the bird and said, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm already in this jail cell. What more do you want? You want to control what I can do in this jail cell? No, this is my space. This is my space. But they kept on coming in and macing me and threatening me with clubs and if I'd known how to win friends and influence people, I could have just been reasonable, and maybe these guards wouldn't have been so terrible to me. There was one time I remember I was looking out the window. I was it was night. It was night, and I was peacefully looking out the window. And at this point, I think it started to become more of a power trip for them, I think, because I wasn't hurting anyone. I wasn't doing anyone any grief. But I think just due to the fact that I had, not listened to their commands for so long, when I was being, a problem, and I was being loud and obnoxious to other people, and people were trying to sleep in the prison, and a lot of people in the jail, and a lot of the people in the jail were getting pissed off at me, and I was causing a commotion in my own jail cell and doing what I wanted to do because I felt like I was free to be with God in that cell, and I could say and do anything I wanted to do that I felt glorified God. But at the same time, I was not being respectful to people that were either napping or that were trying to have some peace in the jail. I did not respect their boundaries and their sense of comfort, and so a lot of the people in the jail were really upset with me. A lot of the people in nearby jail cells were upset with me and would say nasty things to me, and so anyway, one time I was sitting on a ledge looking out the window, and one of the officers came by and says, "You need to get down from there." And I was just like, "Are you kidding me? You're going to tell me that I can't even sit on the ledge in this jail cell? Like, what? Who are you? Like, how could you do something? How could you tell me to do something like that? So at that point, I lost it. I was so pissed off. I was like, I'm not going to let him talk to me. I'm not going to let him control where I sit in my cell. Give me a break. So I mooned him. Yeah, I gave him a big fat moon. And I knew what was coming up next, but I didn't care. I was like, I'm not going to let you control where I sit in my own freaking jail cell. Yeah, so I mooned him, and then, they brought in the guards, and they maced me again. And I think I was maced 3 times, maybe more. I think 3 times while I was in there. By the 3rd time, it wasn't so bad. Like, I started to anticipate it, and I kind of knew what to feel and what to expect, and so it wasn't quite as much of a shock to me the 3rd time. But then it was always also difficult, cleaning out the mace for whatever reason. I don't know if this is necessary, but whether it was a punishment or whatever. But the water that they would use to clean out the mace out of my eyes afterwards. Of course, they'd drag me, I'd be naked, and they'd spray me down with this burning hot water, like it was just scalding on my face, and it just stung so much, and I don't know if that was necessary. I don't think it was. I think it was a form of punishment. I think that's what it was. It was a form of punishment, and so, I remember another time I was in there, and I had a Bible, right? And it was like my most precious possession in there. I was like, I'm so thankful to have this Bible. And I was reading it all the time. And I remember thinking to myself, these people are godless. They don't know God. They how could they know God, being the way they are, seeing what they've done to me and how they treated me in here. So this idea went through my head that if only they could even see one verse from the Bible, maybe God could speak to them. And so during one period, I don't remember. I think there was another confrontation. I don't remember if I was doing something in the jail cell that made them come in, or if it was like there was some kind of disturbance. I can't remember exactly what it was. But anyway, there was a point where I remember I was outside of the cell, and I had my Bible, and they were all around, And I started tearing pages out of the Bible frantically, left and right. And the pages were flying everywhere, and they were running to and fro trying to grab up the pages, and they were I don't know what they were thinking. They may have thought to themselves, oh my gosh, this guy's really lost it. He's claiming to be this Christian guy, he's claiming to love God, and here he is, tearing up the pages of this holy book that he says he believes in. So at that point, they probably thought I was truly bonkers. But in my mind, it's not like I knew that I was not desecrating the Word of God. The Word of God is eternal. It cannot be destroyed. But the actual physical Bible, I did not believe that was some kind of like it can't be torn or something. And I thought that maybe if they were picking up the pages, that they would catch a glimpse of a verse that said something about having compassion or loving your enemy or treating people kindly or whatever. And so, I know in retrospect that I wasn't exactly doing that to them. I wasn't treating them kindly. I wasn't offering them the benefit of the doubt. I wasn't, so it was reciprocal. I understand that. I wasn't the innocent martyr that I thought that I was for many years after that. It's really a tough thing, really, to see key life moments in your life where you feel like you've been persecuted or you've been unfairly treated, and then years later you realize that, oh wow, I was the asshole. I was the problem. I was the freaking problem here. It wasn't them. And certainly, things could have been improved on both sides. I could have been more respectful of them, and they could have been more respectful of me. But I can't, how could I expect them to respect me when I didn't respect them? I didn't give them the benefit of the doubt. I assumed that they were agents of Satan. Why? Because, they were doing their job, and because they were trying to protect the people that they thought might be harmed by my actions. Even though I had no intention on harming anyone, they didn't know that, and I should have known that they didn't know that. But for many years, I thought that people just could read me. I thought they just knew that my heart was good, and that I had good intentions. And then when people would say things or respond to me in certain ways that indicated to me that they thought otherwise, it really shocked me. I thought to myself, well, how could they think that about me? How could they think that about me? Don't they know who I am? Don't they know my heart? Don't they know what I'm convicted about and how I just want to do good? So, So what happened eventually was, the delusions over the rapture and everything, they continued. They didn't abate, and the resistance continued. It didn't abate. But I remember another thing that they didn't want me to do was hide under my bed, and that was, for me, that was like my special place. I would hide under the bed. I would go under the bed with my blanket and my Bible, and I would see messages under there from other prisoners, and I would write. I had a pen, and I would write positive messages and verses. I also wrote verses on the wall, which they chastised me for, and they tried to. They washed the wall off and said, "Oh, we took care of your work. We got rid of it. We got rid of it all." And I was just writing things like, Jesus wept, and various verses about love that I can remember from the Bible. And I don't know. I mean, it could be that they really were jerks. I mean, maybe they really were assholes. I don't know. It just, I think it's, honestly, I just think it's just, they were just responding to the way that I was treating them. I think that's really what it was about. So, and I was being an asshole too, you know, not deliberately, you know, attacking them or trying to demean them, but just trying to assert myself and trying to stand up for my freedom and trying to stand up for my value as an individual. But anyway, I was under the bed, and they told me to come out, and I refused, and they said, we're coming in there, and if you don't come out within a certain period of time. And I stayed there, and I knew they were going to come and then mace me. Oh wait, no. What was it? I think I was on my bed, actually. I think, because I know I had my blanket, and I was on my bed, and all I remember is that there was some kind of threat given to me, and it was like, if you don't do this within whatever, this is what's going to happen. And all I recall is that I remember grabbing my Bible and wrapping myself up in a blanket as tight as I could and hiding underneath, right? And they came in there, and I remember I had the blanket wrapped so tight on my face, so tight, because I knew they were going to try and mace me. And I remember that last time that they pulled me out, I had the blanket over my face, and I remember them trying to mace me through the blanket, and at that point I remember like almost laughing. I was almost laughing at that point, because like, ha, you can't get me, you jerks. And they started coughing, because the mace was bouncing off the blanket into their own faces. I was like, ha ha ha, you jerks, you can't get me. And they kept trying to open the blanket to get at my face, and I couldn't, you know, I wouldn't let go. And after that point, I remember one officer came to me afterwards. I don't remember which officer it was, but he said, what did you take into that blanket? What did you take into that blanket? Like, I thought it was like they were trying to think that I'd done something. I brought, like, I had contraband or something. Like I'd smuggled something terrible into the blanket. Like they were suspecting that I had done that. And it's interesting because, you know, these officers had seen me tear up this Bible in the previous our previous meetings together. And I don't know if they thought I was just had no regard for God's word, or if I was just a lunatic or whatever, or thought that the Bible was a piece of junk, which I certainly don't, and I never did. But I said to him, why don't you go find out for yourself? And so maybe at that point they finally saw the Bible and saw that I didn't want them to take it from me, because I think they'd given me a Jehovah's Witness Bible after I think it was the King James Bible that was taken, and I'm not sure. I don't think it was the King. I don't think it was the Jehovah's Witness Bible that I was holding on to so dearly. So I don't know if maybe I'd gotten another copy of the Bible, like another Bible, and maybe they were telling me that I couldn't have it because I'd torn up the last one or something. And I honestly, I can't remember. My memory is blurry on this one. But I think I'm pretty sure it was the Bible, not the Jehovah's Witness Bible, that I grabbed and held dearly, or maybe it was a Jehovah's Witness book, because that does have Jesus' words in it as well, and I was holding on to that. I don't remember which one it was, but at any rate, I thought to myself, well, maybe they'll see how much that means to me, and how much the Word of God means to me, and maybe they'll treat me better, you know. So time went by. I don't know. I think I was in there a total of 2 weeks, and at one point, again, I thought that I was going to start the rapture. But this time it was going to happen completely by faith. Like 100% by faith. 100%. I was going to do it 100% by faith. Just like Jesus said, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, say to the mountain, jump into the sea and it will obey. And I took those words very, very literally. Very literally. And so, I decided that I was going to take my mattress. It was a time for, it was a period where when our doors had opened, our door cells had opened, and it was open time in the area. People could walk around, and people were taking showers, people were sitting at the table, whatnot. And I took my mattress off my bed and I placed it on the floor. I was on the second floor of a jail cell. Jail cell, the second floor of the area. My jail cell was on the second floor of the area, and I took my mattress, placed it on the ground, lie down on top of it, and I said to myself, here goes. God's going to catch me. I know he will. I'm going to fly up in the rapture. What happened next was crazy. So with my feet, and remember, this is concrete we're talking about. We are talking about concrete floors. I pushed myself. I think there was a bar, over the area. I think I went underneath the bar. Like I laid down and I pushed myself off the edge of the second floor, thinking that, God was going to catch my little, he was going to catch my mattress. He was going to catch me, and I was going to start flying around, like Aladdin. Who knows, So, but God did protect me. He did protect me in a way. It wasn't what I expected, but I'm very grateful for it either way. And the way he caught me was after I pushed myself off the edge, I blanked. I just blanked. I blanked out. I lost consciousness. There was no pain. No pain whatsoever. I didn't feel a single ounce of pain. But apparently, I fell pretty far. And I don't know if my head was on the mattress when the mattress hit the concrete, or if my head just hit the concrete right away. I don't know. I didn't feel any pain in the back of my head. So I don't know if my head hit the mattress and then hit the concrete, or my head hit the concrete directly. I don't know. All I remember is I come to, I wake up, like I look around and there's halls. I'm in a wheelchair and I'm moving at a very fast speed. The halls are whizzing by me, right? They're whizzing by me. Like, oh, this is kind of fun, cool, I believe there was a black gentleman that was pushing me through the hallways, and I don't remember my conversation with him, but I was like, "Hey man, you're good to meet you." Like I was like so glad to be out of there, and I don't remember. I think I made some comment about, is it NAACP, like a black organization? I think it was NAACP, or I think I said something about. Oh, I was like, "Are you in the NAACP or something like that?" I don't remember. And you know, I had a pleasant conversation with this gentleman, and next thing you know, I don't remember the specifics, but I think that I was in an ambulance after that, and I don't remember. I don't think I went to a hospital. I may have gone. I mean, I know I ultimately ended up in a psychiatric ward, which is really where I believe belonged in the first place, not in a jail. But they didn't know that I was, not. I had no evil intent. They didn't know that. They judged me based on what I said, and I judged them by how I perceive them, and that's what we do. We judge by appearance, and a lot of times our judgments are wrong. A lot of times a person may not appear friendly or appear amenable to you. That doesn't make them a bad person. They are a living individual just like you. They have a free will. They have desires and hopes and dreams and goals and fears and family and loved ones and, hopes and devotions just like you. We are all the same. We're all the same, We all have these desires for meaning and purpose, and we want to have happiness and joy, and we want to have connection and be loved and be liked and be able to provide input and to be valuable to people, and we want to provide value for people. I think most people want that, I think some people that are psychopaths may have found ways to derive that joy that we should fill with human connection, with human domination or controlling other people for the sake of power or whatever. But I think the majority of people really just want to be loved, to love and be loved, But so I don't recall if I went to the hospital. I didn't feel like there's anything wrong with it. I didn't feel a single pain at all. So I know that things could have gone a lot worse if God wasn't watching out for me. I could have cracked my head open. I mean, I fell from a second story. It's concrete, and if my head would have slipped off the mattress or something and hit straight under the concrete, I could be a dead man. I could have died. So God protected me over and over in spite of my own zealousness to start the rapture and whatnot. But so I ended up in the psych ward, and I don't remember the details of that too much, although I do know that afterwards, when I first saw the article written about me after getting out, and I saw the article in the Nevada Union about what the officers had said about me, and that I'd tried to grab their handgun, and that I was I had battered an officer. I was like, dude, they battered me. Like, how can you say I battered an officer? But that's their perspective. They felt that I battered them because I guess one of the officers claimed that I swung a punch at him. I don't think I ever did that. I have no recollection of swinging a punch. He says that my fingers caught his, because there was a little abrasion on his face like this. He says my fingers caught his face on the way back, like I punched and missed, and then on the way back my fingers had scraped his face. I never punched any of the officers. I never punched. I didn't want to cause them harm. I wasn't out to cause them harm or cause them trouble. I was just trying to defend myself, from what I feared was my last breath. That's how I felt. And so, my life was upended for quite a few years based on, the charges that were placed against me. I received a felony, resisting arrest, a felony battery of an officer, a felony attempting to remove a firearm, attempting to use a firearm. In his testimony before the judge, the officer claimed that I attempted to use firearm and did. How did he say it? I attempted to remove and did remove firearm, like holster or latch from firearm. I don't remember what they said. I can't remember the specific wording of it, but I do know that I never grabbed a gun, and I never, intended on using it. I was not going to be the one to bring a vengeance. It was God, and if God didn't, which, and I hope that He doesn't. I hope that all of these officers that were involved in this incident, have a meaningful and wonderful life and find peace and love from God in their own way. And there was one officer that, particularly was the one that was hurt the most. I believe one of his arms was pulled, or I think he had an arm, he had a pulled forearm or shoulder or something, and had to have, I think, reconstructive surgery. And I made peace with this officer. I saw him at an event in the community quite a few years after it happened. He was about maybe 10 years, 12 years after it happened. And I remember seeing him, and I remember thinking, and I had seen him prior when I was still like, about, part of me was like, I wanted to expose these officers for what they did to me, and I wanted them to recognize that, I was in the right or whatever. And anyway, I saw this officer. So McIntosh was the main officer, and the other one was Howard. Officer Howard. I'm pretty sure Howard was either his first or his last name. And I had seen him at this event outside, and I walked up to him, and I was like, look, I just want to really apologize for what happened, and I didn't intend for any of this to happen, and I don't remember if I asked him for forgiveness, but I think he said, he showed me the the wound that he had on his arm from having reconstructive surgery, and I tried to offer whatever words of peace that I could. And it's funny, like several years later, I did see him again. I saw him again because I went manic again, and I'm pretty sure that I saw him again. I was in confinement, and I think it was at the Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital. They had me in a room, and I saw him, and I remember telling him some things about, like, I don't know, making all sorts of promises about things that I could do to make the world a better place, or whatever the case was. And he probably thought that I was pretty delusional at that point too, but still just hoping for a place in this world, a place to find my place, to find meaning for myself, and hopefully bring hope to other people as well. but I was not able to really engage him in like normal human conversation at that point, because I was quite grandiose at the time, so I hope that Officer Howard, he did mention to me, and I think I saw him a few times at Taco Bell where I work, and I believe one time he told me that I think his wife passed away or something, or someone really close to him passed away, and I wish I'd had more words to say than just, oh, I'm sorry to hear about that, or I wasn't really like feeling connected to the human race at that point when he told me that, and I didn't really know what to say, and I wish I could have, said more than just I'm sorry about that or whatever. But if Officer Howard ever sees this video, I do want to tell you that I am really truly sorry for your loss of your wife or the family member that you lost, and I'm sorry for upending your life for so long, and I hope that by losing your right arm, the use of your arm, at least in a sense that you had it before, like I can't begin to imagine the difficult changes you had to make in your life, as a result of that incident, and how my actions affected you for so long. And guys, just like every action we have has an equal and opposite reaction. The things that we do may seem insignificant to us, but they can affect other people for forever, for lifetimes, for life. His right arm will never be the same, or left, or I think it was his right. His right arm will never be the same again. Never, because of that incident. And that's something that I have to live with, And for so long, I was just so focused on my own situation and my own whatever I wasn't getting in life, or how other people weren't treating me right, or whatever, that I just didn't realize that I've been a source for a lot of pain for other people as well. I've caused a lot of pain to people over my years of my 50 hospitalizations and my numerous encounters with the law and people in mental health, people in hospitals. I've done a lot of damage in my life, And a lot of times, and this is the worst part about it, is that I thought I was doing it for the glory of God. I thought I was doing it to spread some kind of message that I thought people needed to hear, But I was the one that was, blowing a blowhorn, at a peaceful funeral, or causing chaos, making it about my agenda, and making it about something that they didn't ask for, and I thought that I had some kind of answer for people, that I had some kind of solution, when the biggest problem was just myself. Like I didn't have a solution for myself, and I was trying to fix myself. I was trying to fix what was broken inside by trying to fix the world, and you can't do that. You cannot fix yourself by trying to fix the world. And the only way to do anything positive in the world at all, the only way to do anything meaningful anything lasting, anything of value in the world, is to first look inward and look at your intents, look at your insecurities, look at your emptiness, look at your flaws and your weaknesses, and be brutally honest about them, and realize that a lot of times what you're trying to fix out in that world, when you see that other person and you're trying to fix something about them, you see some institution that you're trying to fix. You want to fix this about the institution, or that about the institution, or that about this person, or that about this organization. A lot of times it's just your own insecurities within that you're trying to like have an external, like externalize it, externalize your own insecurities, and fix what's broken inside by trying to make some kind of patch up work in the world. At least I don't know if that's true for other people, but I feel that that's what I did. I mean, I'm telling you my testimony, and I don't know if this resonates with anyone or not. But this feels true to me, at least in my walk, and through, about 2 or 3 years of extensive therapy, and just trying to come to terms with the past, and trying to make sense of it, and trying to move forward in a positive direction where I don't keep repeating the past, and I'm not like a hamster on a hamster wheel, and a madman, rushing, trying to get out of the house by banging his head against a brick wall over and over again. That was me. That was the mosquito drawn to the flame, drawn to the mosquito electricity, the mosquito zapper. I keep seeing that light, thinking that was some kind of ultimate answer for my life, and I would just go and get zapped over and over again. I just keep going to that zapper and get zapped and zapped, thinking it's going to be different this time. This time it's going to be different. But, the definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different result. And a lot of times, if there's an obstacle in your way and you don't know how to get through it, a lot of times you just have to retreat and just, wage your battles wisely and look inward and learn to be at peace with yourself. Learn to love yourself, learn to love who God made you to be, appreciate all the wonderful things that He's created about you, all the intricacies, all the nuances of your life. Learn to love them. Learn to love yourself. Because once you love yourself and you can be your own best friend, then you may not be seeking the approval of the world, or you may not need the world to acknowledge, what you think about yourself or whatever, for you to feel validated. You can be your own validation. You can feel okay about yourself, regardless of what the world thinks. You don't need to assert that you are a certain way and say the world has to acknowledge the way I see myself. And if the world doesn't see me the way I see myself, then, the world can go to hell. Or the world needs to be changed. A lot of times, if there's resistance and a feeling of tension between you and the world around you, a lot of times it's not the world. A lot of times it's you. It's hard to acknowledge, but a lot of times it is you. It doesn't mean that there's not hope. It doesn't mean that you can't find strength. and find people that are willing to love you for who you are and that can help you in your journey. But you don't have to make everybody like you to like yourself. You can like yourself just the way you are. You don't have to change. You don't have to be something other than you are. You don't have to be, another identity or another race or another gender or another profession or another, labeling yourself as this way or that way or this way or that way to conform to the world or to, get other people's approval or get recognition or validate yourself. You can love yourself as you are, as a child of God. Because you can think to yourself, okay, well, God made a mistake with me. He just did. I'm convinced of it. He made a mistake. I'm not supposed to be this way. I'm not supposed to be, I'm not supposed to be a man, or I'm not supposed to be a woman, or I'm not supposed to be black, or I'm not supposed to be Asian, or I'm not supposed to be poor, or I'm not supposed to be whatever. Whereas if you take the approach that God, my creator, knew what he was doing when he made me. He knew exactly what he was doing. I'm not a mistake. I am not an afterthought. The Bible says, that you are wonderfully and fearfully knit together in your mother's womb. You are a masterpiece. Nobody is a mistake. Nobody is a mistake. We all have value. God loves all of us. We don't have to fight with each other and say, I need you to affirm me. I need you to see me in a certain way. And if you don't do that, I will be greatly offended, and I will be angry, and I will attack you, and I will post terrible things about you, and I will do everything I can to destroy your life. It's petty. It really is. There's so much more to life than just getting other people's approval, getting other people's recognition, or getting other people's validation. Learn to start from within. Learn to love who you are and how God made you to be. And don't think for a second that you were a mistake. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, I'm going to put this on my YouTube page, and I'm going to put this on my TikTok page. I don't know if anyone will notice. I don't know if anyone will resonate with this message. This message is primarily aimed for people that, are interested in matters pertaining to spirituality, especially matters pertaining to God and finding, your purpose, finding your meaning in life, and people that have, and maybe that have been labeled and cornered into society and called schizophrenics or bipolars or panic disorder or split personality, whatever you want to call it. We are more than labels. All of us, all human beings are more than labels. I am more than just bipolar. I'm not just a bipolar man, you know. You are more than just a gay person or a transgender person or a black person or a left person or a right person or whatever label you use, you know. There's more to us than that. And the more deeper you dig into who God made you as a person, and the more that you can appreciate what He's done in making you, the more peace you're going to have about your life, and the more you'll be able to just sit with yourself and be okay with you just the way you are. Doesn't mean that you don't strive to grow. You don't strive to overcome obstacles, that you don't strive to better yourself in every way, shape, and form. But at the core of who you are, that's what I'm talking about. At the core of who you are, to really just accept and be okay with the look, the way you think, the way you process. I know I started this video talking about, you know, my grand illusion of how I thought that I could start the rapture. I don't know if anyone out there in this world has ever experienced something like this, except for only one other person I know. There may be others. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. You know? The Bible says in the end of days there will become many scoffers. Many people will come scoffing, saying, where is the promise of His return? Where is the promise? You know, his believers have been saying for nearly 2,000 years now that He's going to, over 2,000 years now, that He's going to come back. Where is He? Where is He? Where is He? I don't see Him. Does that mean that we lose faith as Christians? And that we give up? And that we don't look for the immediate return of Christ? And I say to that, absolutely not. Because faith is the verse I'm looking for here. It's eluding me at the moment, but it's got to do with certainty, and it's like by believing we become certain. You know, we become certain. Not saying that the nature of that belief is irrational or not guided by reason and principle, but things in this world are quickening. The quickening is happening. Remember, Alex Jones used to talk about the quickening. talked about just how things are getting faster and faster, and that is definitely true. Technology is advancing at a breakneck pace. AI is so many advances in AI every single day. I see news every week on AI, things that are changing, things that are evolving, and robotics, and once robotics merges with AI, and we're in for some profound changes, some profound changes in the way of living life, and many people will be threatened by job insecurity, with AI robots eventually taking over many jobs that could only be done by humans. And I've seen that example even at Taco Bell. I mean, it hasn't happened to my restaurant yet, but there's 10 restaurants, I believe, in California that are already using AI in the drive-thru, and another 20 planned. And so this is just the first step, So yeah, the AI is going to take some time getting used to, and we'll probably have people in the drive-thru for quite some time still. But as the technology gets better, eventually the people that take your order, the people that the order takers won't be necessary, because AI will be able to do it faster and more efficient than most humans. And once robotics get involved, and you have owners of restaurants trying to cut costs and save money everywhere they can, and they can find a robot that can operate a cash drawer faster than a human can, or they can flip a burger, or they can do dishes. I mean, it's only a matter of time before all these positions can be done by a robot. It's just a matter of time. Could be 5 years, could be 10 years, could be 15, but it's definitely coming down the pike, and it's going to be the change in the world is going to be momentous and tumultuous for many. So people may have to find meaning, really search for meaning in more ways than just their job. And hopefully they can find it in creative and productive pursuits. But this quickening was talked about a long time ago by Jesus Christ. And he said in the end times, information will explode. Information will rapidly increase. People will go to and fro much faster. And we're seeing that with information, the explosion of AI, the convergence of robotics and AI and quantum technology and quantum computing, and sequencing, decoding the genome, and being able to mix with edit the gene, and gene splicing, and CRISPR and things like this. All this stuff is gonna really change the world, and will it be the world we want to live in? I can't predict that. I don't know, but I do know that tension, in spite of all of our advances, the tension between people groups are becoming, some areas have become unlivable practically that used to be very safe areas to live. And I do believe that Jesus will come back in our lifetime. Could I be wrong? Sure, I could be wrong. But that doesn't mean that I still don't look towards that meeting, look towards that reunion with expectation and hope. Have I had my doubts? Oh yeah. Have I had my doubts ever? I because of my past and because of the obsession that I had with the rapture and everything, I really had to I stepped away from end times theology. I stepped far away from it. I stepped far away from Jesus for a long time. And even today I still I still struggle. I still have my doubts. I think everybody who has a rational mind will have doubts. I don't think it's bad to doubt, I don't think it's bad to doubt. But I think what's bad is to give up. Is to give up on the quest and to say, oh well, this doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't matter whether there is a God or not. Like, I think that's fatalist thinking. I think that's there are people that say, I don't care whether there's a God or not, it doesn't matter to me. And there are people that say there is no God. There's no evidence for God in either case. Those are both, in my opinion, foolhardy positions to take in light of the fact that you don't know what the future holds. You don't know, when you die, if there is a God that made you, what will you say? What will you say to him when you first see him? Will you want to spend eternity with him? Will you welcome that opportunity with open arms and be like, oh Lord, oh, the one that created me, I'm so pleased that you made me. I'm so happy that you made me, and I'm grateful for all the time you gave me on earth, and I want to spend eternity with you. Is that what you'll say when you see God? Or will you say, oh, there is a God. Oh, beep, I really messed up my life. I did terrible things to people. I abused people. I never asked for forgiveness for people, either from people or from God. I live with a cold heart. How could I spend eternity with this being? I can't even stand his presence. I cursed him all my life. Maybe it'd be better for me not to be near this being. And given the choice, if you've rejected God all your life, you've cursed his name over and over again, you've hated him, you despised him, you despised the people of God, people of Christ, the church. Will you want to be with those people forever, in God's presence? Or would you prefer to be alone with the rest of humanity apart from God in all the beautiful, wonderful, peaceful, glorious plans that he has for humanity, for those that love him? Ask yourself that question. If you died right today, this moment, and you saw God, would you be happy to see him? Would you want to be with him? Or would you want to run from him? Would you want to flee from him? Ask yourself the first conversation that you'd like to have with God. Are you going to get up to him like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Where are you? How could you be so terrible? Or are you willing to admit that maybe God is not the monster that maybe you thought he was? And how could someone that created you be a monster? How could someone that knit you together in your mother's womb be a monster? Yeah, this is about 2 hours. It's pretty long, so I'll probably break this into 4 segments on TikTok and then just one long YouTube video. I don't know the response. I don't know if anyone will see this. I don't know if anyone will notice. Maybe someone will. If someone sees this and this message, affects you in some way, either positive, hopefully not negative. But if it is negative, I didn't intend to cause any harm or pain. I'm just trying to share a genuine life experience that I had, and I'm just reaching out to those in cyberspace to see if maybe there are others that have had similar experiences as I have. So, yeah, I think I'll leave it with that. So I'd like to just make a quick prayer before I go. Dear Jesus, I pray that anyone watching this message today, if they see this, if it brings any clarity or any hope or any solidarity with anything that they've gone through, any experience that they've had in life, whether it's with police brutality, or feeling misunderstood, or feeling like they don't belong, or feeling like God made a mistake with them, or that they're not worthy, or that that life is not worth living, or whatever the case is. I pray that you would bring a peace upon these people right now, that you would bring them hope, that you would give them a renewed zeal for life, that you would help them to look up to you, that they could see your love for them shining through the universe, everywhere they look in creation, just noticing little things, in whether it's in nature or in a painting or a piece of music or whatever, that all the wonderful things that you've enabled us to create as human beings. Give these people watching who have made it this far, give them a joy, an anticipation for a better future, for a hope of eternal life with you, for a hope of reconciliation with you, with reconciliation with those that they've hurt, with a reconciliation for those that have misunderstood them, or that they have misunderstood. Help us to bring a spirit of healing and a spirit of hope that this world desperately needs. And may you just work in their lives, Lord, and may you reach out to each and every one of them and let them know that you are only a prayer away, that they can speak to you, that they can feel your presence, that they can know they are loved, that they can know what your son Jesus did for them on the cross. Protect them, guide them, strengthen them. And I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, you guys. Now go out. If you're watching this, go out and have the best day of your life. It all starts with him. It all starts with him. In Jesus' name.